and welcome to Vegetable Gardening 101. Today we're going to talk about potatoes. We're going to be planting some potatoes today. We will be planting the Adirondack red potatoes, which are red skin, pink flesh. The Elba potatoes, which are white potatoes, the classic. And then the All Blues, which have blue skin and blue flesh. You may have noticed the pattern there. We are planting red, white, and blue potatoes, and they'll be delicious just in time for the 4th of July. We ordered our potatoes from our friends at Wood Prairie Family Farm. They are a reliable source, and we use them often. So a few things before we actually get started planting. About 3 or 4 days before you plant your potatoes, you're going to want to take your seed potatoes and cut them into pieces. Each piece should have about 2 to 3 eyes on it. After you're done cutting them, you want to spread them out on a baking sheet or a platter, something to give you enough room so that they're not touching. And you want to leave them in a room that has good air circulation and that doesn't get too hot for about 3 or 4 days. The reason we do this is that so they can dry out a bit. As they dry out, that actually protects them from rotting once you put them in the ground. So, you cut your potatoes with 2 to 3 eyes on each piece. You put them somewhere well, good air circulation for about 3 to 4 days. And then once you are ready to plant, you have your spot selected. Make sure you select a spot that you haven't already been growing nightshades on. Tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, anything in the nightshade family, you want to rotate that area every year and grow something from another family. So when you plant your potatoes, just plant them somewhere where you didn't grow tomatoes last year. The potatoes themselves want to be in rows 12 inches apart. And depending on where you live in the country, you want to plant them between 1 and 4 inches deep. If you're in the south, you plant them a little deeper. If you're in the north, you plant them more shallow. Since we're kind of in the middle, today I'll be planting them about 2 to 3 inches deep. Another thing you want to know before planting your potatoes is that as they grow, you are going to mound the earth up around the plant 2 to 3 times in their growing season. So just keep that in mind as you plant them, that as they grow, you will be mounding earth around them. That makes the plants create more roots, which will give you more tubers. Another thing you're going to want to know is that the plant needs to be about 6 inches high before you start mounding. So as soon as your plant gets about 6 inches high, then you mound the earth around it. Then you get a lot of potatoes, and who doesn't love a lot of potatoes? So now we're going to go over to our spot that we've selected for our potatoes, and we're going to get planting. So come join me. Okay, everybody, here we are at the planting site. As you see here, we have raised rows, and that just means the earth is kind of mounded up in rows. And what I have done in anticipation of having to mound the soil around the actual plants is I have dug a trench in this row. So I've dug the trench, and then in that trench I have dug my holes for the potatoes. I don't know if you can see that with the shadow. There's a couple holes there. So I'm going to plant the potatoes in the holes, and then as soon as the plants get about 6 inches high or so, I am going to then just push the earth around it. And I've just done that to make my job in the future a little easier. You do not have to plant potatoes this way. You can plant them directly in the ground and then just have soil on hand to mound around them when the time comes. So here's a couple of examples of our potatoes. You can see these beautiful eyes, and you can also see that after they've dried, they don't look very appealing, but that's exactly what you want them to look like. So these are beautiful examples. I'm going to go ahead and, this is one of the All Blues. I'm going to go ahead and stick him in his little hole there and cover him up. Again, I'm doing about 2 to 3 inches deep. And the next one here are their beautiful eyes. And they don't really need to go in an exact way, but I always like to keep the eyes up just to give them a little ease on their growing. So now that they're planted, I'm going to wait. Right now the soil is what I would call lightly moist, whether you like that word or not. It's not too wet. You don't want to plant potatoes in soil that's too wet because then they will have a tendency to rot. So since we are expecting rain tomorrow, I've got the soils in today and the moderately moist soil, and then tomorrow once it rains it'll give it a nice deep watering. After your plants are grown up, you're probably wondering, when can I eat potatoes? Because that's everybody's favorite part. The potatoes you can actually harvest at any time. You can eat them at any size. If you are saving seed potatoes, you want to wait for your potato plant to die completely back, all the greenery on top to die completely to the ground, and that's when you know your potatoes are ready. Me personally, that's when I like to harvest them, is when the plant has died completely back and the potatoes are nice and big. But again, it is up to you. So that about does it for this episode of Vegetable Gardening 101. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new. And I hope you get out there and start planting some vegetables. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and we will answer them as quickly as possible. Until then, have a great time. Have a great garden. We'll see you next time.